Hello everyone. Today I'm going to be demonstrating a bunch of new makeup products that I've been trying out over the past month or so. And today it is snowing here, and so I don't have very good light, but I do have a lot of footage that I shot previously when the light was a lot better. And so you will be able to see what the products look like in the real world. And among the newest products that I have that I'm going to be demonstrating include this new eyeshadow palette from Victoria Beckham in the color Olive. And then I also have one of the new Rhode lip liners, and I have a couple of the new gel eyeliners from Jones Rhode, including their new eyeliner brush. And I will be demonstrating all of these products in 4 different quick makeup looks. And so first, a little bit of information about me. I am 60 years old, and I have very sensitive and dry skin. And over the past 3 years, I've tried more than 1,000 makeup products, and so I do have a pretty good basis of comparison for everything that I try. And what I am looking for are products that can help me to look a little bit fresher and a little bit younger without taking a lot of effort to put on, and also without causing any irritation at all to my very sensitive skin. And one thing that I have found is that there are certain ingredients that always do irritate my skin, and I know that these same ingredients tend to be very irritating for many other people as well, so I just don't talk about those products with those ingredients on this channel. And so let's go ahead and dive into the first look. And what I am doing first is to put on a little bit of color corrector under my eyes. And one of the color correctors that I have that I am demonstrating is a new one from Kosas, and this is called the Kosas Revealer Color Corrector. And this is really the same formula that is in their Kosas Revealer Concealer that has been very popular, but it is in several new shades. And so I have a shade that is called Illusion, which is a light peach shade. So the Kosas Revealer Concealer is a concealer that I've used quite a bit over the years. This is a concealer that I am a little bit nervous about in terms of lasting very long. I think that it does have a 6-month usage life, and I think it's probably a good idea to just use this for 6 months because it doesn't have a lot of preservatives in it, and I do think that there's the potential for it to go bad in some way if you do use it for too long. And so I would think that that would be the case with this color corrector version of it as well. Now, one thing to know about these Kosas Revealer products is that they do contain a chemical that is called phenyl alcohol, and this is a fragrance that is used in the perfume industry, and it does have kind of a rose scent, and it can be derived from roses, but it usually is a laboratory generated ingredient. And I think this is slightly irritating to me, and it does give this concealer just a really mild scent. And so I don't feel like there's enough of it in this to actually irritate me, and I have been able to use this, but it is something to be aware of. And so in general, I think that this is a good possibility. I think that this color has been okay under my eyes. I think it's a pretty good color for me, and there are a few different shades, but in general, I tend to really like either the Jones Rhode color corrector pencil, or I like the Bobbi Brown color corrector pencils, and so those are the ones that I use almost every day. And then on my other eye, I am using a product from Caliray, and this is called the Hideaway color corrector, and again, this is a liquid color corrector, and it has a doe foot. And I have this in the color of Warm Sun Glow, and I think it's been okay for me. When I purchased this, it did not have enough shades in it, and so this shade is a little bit on the dark side, and the shades that were lighter were only available in like pink and yellow. Now they are introducing this month a couple of new shades, and there's one that's going to be a lighter shade that's more of like a peach shade, and I think that that one would be better for me, and I do think that I like this color corrector a little bit better than I like the Kosas one. It doesn't have any kind of a scent to it, and I think it's a little bit less likely to make the wrinkles under my eyes look worse. And so I would be interested in trying the new version of this when they do come out with the color that's more appropriate for me. And so next is a product from Lisa Eldridge, and this is called the Pinpoint Concealer, and it is available in 16 shades, and it is $36, and so I purchased it in the shade 4. And this is a product that Lisa Eldridge developed because she has a history of acne, and so she said that she recalled earlier in her life that she had a hard time going in public without wearing a lot of heavy foundation, and so she wanted something that would look like she was not wearing any makeup, but that would cover over all of her spots, that had like texture as well as color to them. And so I think that I can see why that would be appropriate for that. This is a product that is actually very different than any of the other cream concealers that I have been using in order to cover over things on my face. So this is a product that actually has a really different formula than any of those other products. It's more like an eyeliner pencil, and it's supposed to be waterproof. And I do think I could see how that would really work, and I do think it's worked really well for me on areas of my face that do have a little bit of texture to them. I think in terms of how well it covers over other kinds of issues on my face, like for instance age spots or reddish or things like that, I think it works fine for that too, but I'm not sure that it works a lot better than the products that I've already been using. And so, for instance, really almost every day I use either this pencil from Jones Rhode, or I use a product from Bobbi Brown, or I use some other kind of cream concealer or cream concealer stick that will go in my face and just really cover over. I have a lot of redness on my face, and sometimes I have little age spots. They're not real bad yet. And so I will use this to cover them over. And I don't usually have too much acne, and I think that I can see that if I did have acne spots, that this would be a product that I would want to reach for, and I can definitely see how it would work for that. But in terms of the more run-of-the-mill types of issues that I have on my face, I don't think that that's as necessary, and it certainly is much more expensive. And I actually think that this is maybe faster, and then I can just put this little face pencil on really fast and then kind of blend it in with the brush. And I think that it's a little bit less fussy, but I do think that I can see why a lot of people would really like this product. And so if you're going to buy this Lisa Eldridge product, then you don't want to be daunted by the price, because on a per gram basis, this is a very, very expensive product. But I do agree with the idea that you're not going to be using very much of it, and that I actually do seem to be using considerably less of it than I use with my cream concealers or cream foundations, and that I think that it probably is the case that, especially if you don't manage to break this pencil, that I can see how it would last for quite a long period of time. Now, one thing that I did notice about this pencil is that almost immediately all of the writing on the pencil totally wore off. So it used to have the Lisa Eldridge name on it, and the shade, and the amount of product that's in here, and now there's no writing on it at all. It just all wore off almost immediately, and I've only had it for a couple of weeks. So I don't think it matters that much, except that you may want to write down what shade you have, because if you want to rebuy that shade, you're not going to find it on this pencil. And as I say, I do use this Jones Rhode pencil quite a lot, and I did do a lot of experimentation, and I purchased a whole bunch of different shades. And I think that by far the best shade for me is shade 5, which is supposed to be a cool shade, and I don't feel like my skin is all that cool, and so I do think that probably these pencils run a little bit on the warm side, and so that is something to keep in mind when you are deciding which shade to buy. And I would suggest that if you're not sure, that you send a picture of yourself in natural light to the people at Jones Rhode, because when I did that, they did suggest shade 5, and that did turn out to be the best shade for me. And last year I did do a video looking at both the neutralizer pencils that are the color corrector ones, as well as these face pencils that are for the concealing. And so if you're interested in looking at the colors or in learning more about my experiences with this product, then that video goes into a lot of depth on that. And then a product that I have used quite a bit over the past several months, and that I did use in this makeup look, is the Ceracril Face Flex product in the shade 3.0. And this is $58, so it is really expensive, but there's also an awfully lot of product in this container, and I have used it a lot, and there's still an awfully lot of it left in here. And I think this is a fine concealer in terms of using it on my face in general, and as liquid concealers go, I think this is really the best one on the market, probably. But for this look, I'm just using it as an eyelid primer because I'm going to be putting on some eyeshadow. And I think that it does work really, really well as an eyelid primer as well. And this does come in 10 shades. And although it's $58 in terms of the cost per gram of the product or the cost per milliliter, it's actually fairly reasonably priced. And then another product that was released recently is the Bobbi Brown Precise Ultra Slim Eyebrow Pencil, and it is available in 12 different shades. And the shade that I have is called Gray Blonde, and I do think that this is a really good color for me. And in general, I haven't had all that much luck recently with a lot of the eyebrow pencils that have been released. A lot of them are kind of like micro pencils or nano pencils. And I have found that they tend to break, and that also I do have a lot of brows to fill in because my brows are very sparse and very light. And in a lot of cases, it just takes a lot of time with those little nano pencils to fill them in. But in this case, I don't think that the pencil is quite as small. It does have a little slanted tip to it. And I think that in terms of how easily it goes on and how nice it looks, I think that it actually is performing really, really well for me. And so of the pencils that I have, I think that this one is quite nice. And so because I have such sparse brows, I tend to use a brow pencil as well as a brow gel. And I find that most of the time that will create a much more natural look than using one of them or the other. And so on top of this brow pencil, I used some brow gel in this look. And one of those is a new version of the Brow 1980 from Merit. And so I have this in the shade Taupe. And I think that they reformulated this and released it back in December or so, but I just found out about the reformulation recently, and so I did pick this up. And I thought that the old version was pretty good, and I think that, if anything, this new version is a little bit better. So I do think it's providing a little bit more volume to my brows than in the past, and I think that it's a nice color for me. It's the same color as before, which is called Taupe, and I haven't had any irritation with this. And sometimes I do have irritation from brow gels, and so I've been really happy with it. And the main brow gel that I have been finding to be the best one recently is the one from Jones Rhode. And so I compared this by putting this particular version on my other eyebrow, and so you can see what the difference is. I do think that I'm almost running out of the product in this one, and that usually when it is fresher that it goes on a little bit more thick and I look like I have brows that are even more bushy. But I think that both of these brows are looking pretty good to me. I think that they're looking fairly natural by the time that I'm done with this, and that my brows are looking fairly a lot heavier and not like they're actually sparse brows, and that they do look pretty natural as far as I'm concerned. And I did want to mention that just a couple of days ago, Jones Rhode did send to me a new shade in this brow gel. So they know that my channel caters to more mature people, and so they sent along their new shade that is in gray. So I usually use the shade Ash, which is a kind of a taupe shade, and that is on the bottom, and then the gray shade is on the top. So you can see that that is quite a bit darker, and so if you have hair that is darker but that is going gray, then that might be a good shade to go with it in terms of the eyebrows. I didn't bother to put that one on because it does look pretty bad on me, but I think that if you have the right color hair, that this could be a really nice product. And just a couple of months ago, they did come out with this same gray shade in their eyebrow pencil, and so that would coordinate with this really well. And then also in the video footage, because my lips were kind of dry, I decided to put on just a little bit of a lip gloss or a little bit of a lip treatment oil in order to help them out a little bit before I finished off my makeup. And so this is called the Ravie Lip Renewal Oil. It is $24, and it is from a YouTuber named Ali Glines. This is her brand. And I think this is actually a really nice product. I think that it is moisturizing, and it does have some nice moisturizing ingredients ingredients in it, and it does have a peptide in it, so that is supposed to be good for the lips as well. And I managed to make this into kind of a pink color by putting it on my lips when my lips had some lipstick on it. I think it's really just supposed to be totally clear. But I do think it feels pretty good on my lips, and I think it works reasonably well in terms of it actually being nourishing for my lips. And it does have a little bit of vanillin in it, and usually I'm not crazy about vanillin as a flavor at all, but this is pretty mild, and it really hasn't bothered me too much. And so now let's talk about the Victoria Beckham eyeshadows. And so Victoria Beckham used to have a line of several different powder eyeshadow compacts, and these were called the Smoky Eye Bricks. And so I did pick up one of these. The one that I picked up was called Silk, and this one has 4 different satin shades in it, so you can see what it looked like. And I didn't feel like I got that much use out of this product. I wasn't all that crazy about the formula, and I thought that this particular product, it was a little bit on the light side for me. And on the other hand, all of the other versions were all matte shadows, and those looked like they were much darker. And so I didn't really feel like any of those were really particularly appropriate for me. It does come in this really gorgeous sort of glass tortoiseshell type of packaging though, and I think that was one of the really nice things about the Victoria Beckham line, is that it does come in really, really nice packaging. So just a couple of months ago, she sold off apparently the remaining inventory of all of those palettes, and now she has released a line of 4 new palettes. And so the one that I got is one that is in some green shades, and I do think that greens tend to go really well with my eye color and with my complexion. And of the 4 shades that were available, I thought that this one would probably be the best bet for me, so I did go ahead and pick this one up. And I think it's worked pretty well for me. So in this palette here, we have a beige shade. It's kind of a dark beige shade. And so I used this as the main color on my overall eyelids. And then it has an olive green shade that has kind of a lot of gray in it. And it has a teal shade that I used as an eyeliner. And then it has a shade in it that's sort of like a sparkly chartreuse shade. And I put this over my whole eye look. And I think that this worked out pretty well for me, and I think that in general eyeshadows that are green tend to work well for me. And this one, I do think that I had to use it really gently. I think that it would have the potential of getting away from me and creating an eye look that would be a little too smoky and that I would not be able to wear. But I did use it very, very gently, and I blended it a lot, and I think it looked okay. And this is made in Italy, and it does have a 24-month usage life, but it doesn't have any talc in it. And the formula of it, I think it's sort of similar maybe to the Lisa Eldridge eyeshadows, or maybe even to the Jane Iredale eyeshadows. And so my suspicion with this is that 24 months may be a little bit on the long side in terms of expecting that it's going to continue to perform the way that it is now. I think that these kinds of eyeshadows, particularly if they don't have talc in them, they do tend to get dried up pretty quickly. And so that is one reason that I'm a little bit hesitant to buy any more of these. And it also is the case that I'm not really sure that any of the other shades would be that great for me. So there's one that's called Victoria, which has a lot of kind of brownish type of colors, but I think that all of those are quite dark, and so I would have to use them probably as sort of one and done shades, and to use not too much of them if I wanted it to not look really, really smoky. And then there is one that has blues in it, and I'm a fan of blues, and I would be willing to try that one, but it does look pretty bright. And then there is one that's more like an evening palette that has some blacks in it. So in general, I kind of feel like all of these palettes would be appropriate for Victoria Beckham in terms of the kind of looks that she does for herself. So whenever I look at a picture of Victoria Beckham, what I tend to see is that she is wearing a pretty smoky eye, and she does have a kind of a neutral lip on, and I think that all 4 of these palettes would be good to give you that kind of a look. But in terms of a more kind of an everyday look, I'm not sure that these palettes would work as well. I think you have to be really, really careful with them. But there are some eyeshadows that I have used that I haven't been able to make work for me at all. And at least this one, I was able to make it work, and I probably could make those other palettes work if I put some effort into it. But I would kind of like to see her create a few more palettes that seem to be more appropriate for instance, lighter skin tones and that don't have the potential to go quite so smoky. And I might be a little bit more interested in picking that up if she were to do that. But in general, I think that this formula, if I compare it to something like the YSL eyeshadows, I don't think that this particular formula is nearly as good. Now, this does not have talc in it, and the YSL shadows do have talc in them. So if you were concerned about talc, then that would be something that would make a difference. My experience with talc is that I haven't found that it has irritated my eyes, at least as long as I have purchased it from higher-end brands. And I am hoping that if I'm purchasing products that have talc in them from higher-end brands like YSL, that they would not be contaminated with asbestos. And in any case, the asbestos is mostly an issue if you're breathing it in. And so with eyeshadows, I just don't think that with most of these eyeshadows I'm going to be breathing in enough of it that even if there were some asbestos contamination, that it would be causing me particular harm. But I think that there is a lot of concern about talc now, so a lot of people are concerned about that. So I would like to see how these hold up over the next year or two, and I would like to see if Victoria Beckham comes out with any other products. But in general, I think that this is a pretty good eyeshadow palette, but I am not excited enough about it to go run out and buy more. And one thing that I will note is that even though the size of the palette in terms of the height and the width is the same as the old palette, you are not really able to buy the refill in this and then put it in the old palette because it is too deep. And so you wouldn't be able to close the lid on this, apparently. And so I think that that's a little bit unfortunate that she made these really gorgeous cases and that we now need to throw them away. Once this particular old formula is gone, I think it would have been nice if we could have had refillable packaging to begin with. But this one is refillable, and so I think that that is a nice thing. And I think that in general, although this packaging tends to be a little bit difficult to close, and I'm still having a little bit of difficulty with this new packaging in terms of getting it closed and keeping it closed, I do think it is really, really pretty. So that is a nice thing. Now, although it is mostly metal and glass, it's multiple different materials, so it does have some plastic in it, and so I wouldn't say that it's that great for the environment, even though it is refillable. And then I have a new blush that I'm trying out, and this is from Laura Mercier, and so it is supposed to be sort of a combination of Valentine's Day and Lunar New Year packaging, so it's in this red packaging with these flowers on it. And then on the inside of this, it also has red packaging with gold on it. And in terms of the blush itself, it is apparently like a baked gelée formula, and so it has these flowers that are sort of embossed or pressed into the blush. And this is a really, really light shade, so it is called Ginger. And I think that this is probably made mostly for the Asian market. And I did have a blush from Laura Mercier in the past. I just had a little sample, and I do think it was really pretty. And so I thought that it would be nice to give this one a try because I do tend to like a lot of the lighter blushes that are not too bright. And this one is maybe a little bit too subtle for me. I think that I was able to see it on my skin a little bit, but I don't think that for most people that have skin that's any darker than mine, it probably would work. But if you have skin that is really pale and you are looking for something that is just a really muted blush, I think that this one may work. And I think that it was nice on me. And this is a nice formula, but it does have talc in it. And so since that one didn't show up so much on my skin, I thought that I would add a little bit of a shimmery pop of color with this new blush that I picked up from YSL. And so YSL came out with a line of different blushes that are called Make Me Blush Powder Blush. And different countries have gotten different shades in this. So they have a whole bunch of different blushes, like 13 shades, I think, total, something like that. And in the United States, I think we've only gotten 7 of them. And I'm not necessarily that crazy about the shades that we did get in the United States. Most of them are quite saturated, and I don't think that they would be ideal for me. I think that there is one that was available in Canada and Korea and in England and many other places that is called Rose Haze that I would like to have. And some of the other blushes that are not available in the US seem like they would be particularly attractive to me also. So I am kind of waiting to see if maybe some of those other blushes might be available here. But I did pick up one just to give it a try, and the one that I picked up is called Nude Lavalier, and this is supposed to be an iconic dusty pink satin. And of all the shades that are available, this one is supposed to be the most glittery. It's not really glittery, it's more like a frosty color. And I think that this is really nice. I really kind of like it a lot, and I think that it does go on my skin really well. Whether or not the matte versions would be as good, I don't know. They do look, as I say, really pigmented and saturated, and I have heard from some people that they're also a little bit patchy. And so in general, I'm not really eager to pick any of those up. But I think I've been really enjoying this particular shade. And I think as a sort of a wintertime shade, this is leaning in a little bit to the berry shades. And so when I wear things like burgundies in the winter months, I think that this goes really well with it. And it is $45, so that is really expensive. And I think that probably a lot of what you're paying for is the packaging. So the packaging has this fake leather on the top of it and these YSL letters. So usually I don't like this packaging that much. They use it for their eyeshadows and for their bronzers and their powders, and in general I think that it's not really my favorite packaging. But for this one I do like it because the color on the front of it lets you know what color blush is inside of it, and so that is very practical. So $45 is a lot of money, and I'm not sure that this blush is worth quite so much money. And I also think that it would be nice if we could get all the shades, especially if they're going to charge that much money. But I will say that so far I've actually reached for this a lot, and I do think that I will continue to use it as time goes on. And then next I have the new mascara from Haus Labs, and this is called Be Structural, and it is $29 for the full size, but I managed to get a little sample by spending some of my points on Sephora, and I actually kind of like this mascara. So I was afraid it was going to be a typical non-tubing mascara and that it was going to be goopy and messy, but it actually has been performing really well for me, and I don't think that it was really difficult to get off. I think that it went on really nicely. I don't think that it looked like there was a lot of trouble to put on, and I don't think it flaked or clumped or anything like that. I didn't have to get out a spoolie to separate my lashes, and I don't think it's been irritating, and I've worn it a few times, and I think it's held up really well for me. So as mascaras go, I think that this one has been okay. I think that I would like it a lot better if it were in brown, and there aren't that many mascaras that I really, really like that are in brown. But in terms of performing well, you know, it used to be the case just a couple of years ago that I really couldn't find any mascaras that I liked. But over the past couple of years, there have been an awfully lot of mascaras that have been released that I do really like. And I think that this one has been fine. And then on my other eye, I put on a new mascara from Jane Iredale. And this one is called the Lash Fixation Mascara, and this is a tubing mascara, and it is $28. And I think that this one has been nice too. I don't actually think that when it gets on my lashes that it ended up looking that much different than the Haus Labs one. And I think that it went on pretty easily, and I've used this a couple times, and I think it has been nice too. And so in general, I do think that it is a real breakthrough that we have been seeing so many good mascaras over the past couple of years in terms of how they perform, in terms of not being irritating. And so if we could just get some brown ones, then I would be really, really happy. And then next, I am showing you a collection of lip balms that are from a company called Isamaya. And so last year I actually did a video on these Isamaya lip balms because I had tried some of them and I thought that they were really terrific. So originally these came in a very expensive case that was like $100, something like that, that was shaped like male genitalia. And so a lot of people in the beauty community were really put off by that case. And then when the lip balms were released in the refill version, and you didn't need to buy the expensive case in order to use the refilled versions, I decided to try some of them out just to see what the formula was like. And I was really, really crazy about the formula. And so I ended up snapping up a lot of these lip balms. And so I have used those quite a bit over the past year. And what I found out is that Isamaya is now going to be selling at Sephora. And so it is going to be, there's going to be a bunch of new products that I don't know if they're going to be good or not, and it is all going to be in kind of everyday, ordinary packaging rather than anything that is too avant-garde or possibly going to be offensive. And so I'm really curious about how this is going to do at Sephora and how these new products are going to do. And so I did buy several products from Sephora, and so I'm waiting for them to arrive. And so as soon as I get those, I'm going to try them out and to do a new video. But it does look like the lip balm formula is exactly the same as the old lip balm formula. And so therefore, all of these products should be available at Sephora if you are interested in purchasing them. And so I do have several different versions. Vanity is a black shade. And so this is a shade that is not too black. And when I put it just on my lips, it looks like it's just giving my lips a little bit of a color. And it's almost like it's a natural color, like maybe I have been kissing or something like that. And I also do use that black shade often over other kinds of brighter lipsticks. And I feel like it tones it down a little bit and makes them a little bit more wearable for me and my low contrast complexion. And then there is one that is called Retrograde that I think is kind of a purpley berry type shade, but not too bright. And these are all fairly translucent, so they don't show up as being too bright, so I feel like I can wear them. And there is one that is called Follower, and that was a kind of a brownie shade. And the strange thing is that what they have listed on the Sephora site and now on the Isamaya site is a shade that is called Follow, and that one looks like it's more berry, so this Follower one might not be available now. So I did order the new Follow version, so I will be able to compare it to this Follower version. It's a little bit too bad if they discontinued the Follower one, because brown lipsticks or brown lip balms are kind of in style right now, and that is actually the one that I've used the most so far, so I hope that we see it again. And then Justice is a lip balm that is almost clear, but it does have a little bit of a shift to it, and so it has a lot of kind of a pearly type of highlighter type of a shade in it, and I think that that one's kind of pretty. And then there is one that is called Flamingo, which is kind of a bright pink, and so probably I would only wear that if I were wearing something that was a little bit more bright and summery looking. And there is one that is called Thorns, which I believe is kind of a dusty rose type of a shade. I think that's why it's called Thorns, because it's supposed to be like roses. And then there also is a brand new line with a whole bunch of new shades that are called Lips Metal. And so the one version that was on the market before was called Pantomime. And so that one is kind of a rose color with a lot of a metallic version to it. And I do feel like when I put that one directly on my lips, that one is quite shiny. But I also find that if I put it on over something else, that it seems to be just adding a little bit of shine without going too overboard. And so what I did to try that out is to try it on over my new Rhode lip pencil. And so this is called Rhode Peptide Lip Shape. And I have this in the shade Lunge, which is a warm taupe. And these are $24, and they have 11 different shades. And I did have really good experiences with the Rhode blushes, and so I did want to give one of these lip pencils a try. And I think it's a little bit sort of a combination between a lip crayon and a lip pencil, and I think it does look nice on my lips. And I think as a base for this Isamaya product, I thought that was particularly nice too. But this is a nice little product. It's not too big. I think it goes on really nicely. And I have felt like this is a perfectly nice product to be using, and I wouldn't mind trying out a few more shades. And it does taste good, and I don't think that it has been irritating at all, so that has been a good thing too. And then I decided to put on a little bit of a liquid blush that I have from YSL. So this is also called Make Me Blush, and it is also in the shade that is called Nude Lavalier. And so I did go to Sephora and I tried all of the shades that they have available, and I thought that this was the most wearable shade for me, so I picked it up a few months ago, and I've really liked it. I think that as blushes go, I think that this one is really nice. I think that most of the shades that they are offering look like they would be a lot more difficult to wear, but this one I think it's been really, really pretty. And so I thought that I would wear it in conjunction with the powder blush that is called Nude Lavalier also. And so here are those two different products. So on the top I have the powder product, and then underneath it I have the cream product. And so the powder product does have some shimmer in it, and the cream version is more like a matte type of a version. I'm not seeing any shimmer in that at all. And I think both of these products have worked for me fine, and I think that they have been pretty on my skin. But in general, I think that most of the products in both of these blush lines, both the powder ones and the cream ones, that most of them seem to be targeting either people with very, very light skin, like more light than almost anyone that I have known or met, or people with skin that is considerably darker than mine. So I think that this has been a good choice for me, but I don't think that there are that many of the shades in either of these powder blushes or cream blushes that I probably would be willing to wear. And I realized that there is one more shade of the Isamaya Lip Balm that I had not tried on camera, and so that one is called Mortal, and I think that that one is kind of a natural flesh type of a color that many people can wear pretty easily. And then continuing on with a few more lip products that I just demonstrated since I was kind of in the groove. One of these is a lip product from Nars that was released a couple of months ago, I think. And this is a lip oil. I have this in the color of Faraway, which I think was supposed to be like apricot tea, something like that. So it doesn't have a lot of color to it. And I think that this looked actually really nice on my lips. And it doesn't have any kind of flavor, and it tasted good to me, and I think that it works pretty well for me over lipstick, and it is fairly hydrating to my lips as well. And then I also picked up a lip oil from Jane Iredale, and this one is called Color Luxe High Impact Lip Glaze, and I purchased this in a bright red shade because I'm a little bit interested in finding sort of wearable red shades that are not too bright, and so I thought I would try it in this gloss. And I think that it looks nice on my lips, and I don't think it's too bright that I cannot wear it. I do think that it probably would be a little bit more wearable if it didn't have this bright red shade, because it does tend to get a little bit on the messy side. And so probably if I were going to do it again, I would probably buy something that was more like a pink type of a color or a nude type of a color. But I feel like it's been fine for me. I don't feel like it has been unpleasant to wear. I think the texture is nice. I think the taste is nice. It doesn't have any added scent or any added flavoring to it, but it does taste pretty good. And so I feel like this is a product that at least I can wear. And then, as I've said before on this channel, one of my very favorite lipstick formulas is the Glossier Ultralip. I think that these are reasonably priced, and they are very moisturizing, and they're very easygoing for the most part, and they come in a bunch of different shades. And so I am using those fairly regularly, and I've repurchased them as I have needed. And so they did come out with a couple of new shades that are in their permanent line. And so one of those is called Crest, and this one is described as a classic 90s brown. And so I did try this one on for the camera, and I like the way that this looks on my lips actually. And then there also is one that is called Flute, and this is described as a classic red. And these are $22 each, and so I am really happy that there are a few new shades in this. Now, maybe a month or two ago, I did a video on some of my new favorite lipsticks that were on the market, and one of the lipsticks that I brought up was the new MACximal Satin lipstick, and these are made in Italy, and I think that these are absolutely fantastic in terms of the formula. I think that the formula is just about as good as really any formula for any lipstick that's on the market, and it is $25, so it's a lot more reasonably priced than a lot of other lipsticks that are out there. So I think that this is a really big leap forward for MAC. Now, it does have a little bit of the vanillin flavor in it, and I'm not all that crazy about vanillin flavor in lipsticks, but I feel like the vanillin flavor that is in these new MAC lipsticks are not as aggressive as the previous flavors, and so it hasn't bothered me as much. And so for that previous video, I demonstrated this lipstick, which is called Creme in Your Coffee, and I thought that this was a really nice shade, and I was so happy with the formula that I decided to pick up a couple new versions. And so one of the shades that I picked up is called Paramount, and this one is described as a reddish brown. And one thing that I know about that particular shade is that it is one of the shades that Jennifer Aniston, when she was playing Rachel on Friends, she used to wear this one, so it is kind of a 90s shade, and I do feel like I was able to wear it a lot better than I am able to wear a lot of reddish lipsticks, and it kind of gives a vibe that I am wearing a red lipstick, but not so much of a vibe that the red lipstick is wearing me. And then the lipstick that I'm wearing today is also in the MACximal Satin line, and this is called Bricola, and this is described as a rose type of a color, but it is a color that in a lot of cases when people are suggesting that someone may want to be wearing a red lipstick, but the red lipsticks are too bright for them, a lot of times people are recommending this for like soft summers or soft autumns, and I think that I'm kind of in that ballpark. And so I did put this on today, and I kind of like the way it looks, and it's wearing off a little bit, so I'll put a little bit more on. And I think this goes on pretty easily, and I think it looks nice on me. And then I found another lipstick that is new from MAC that I actually am kind of liking on me also. And this one is in their matte formula. And I like the matte formula also. I don't think I like it quite as much as the satin formula. And the matte lipsticks are actually made in Canada, but I think that they're also okay. And this one is called Viva Heart. And so this is in the Viva Glam line. And in the Viva Glam line, all of the money that people spend on the lipsticks all goes to some kind of a charitable cause. And in the past, when I thought about buying a Viva Glam lipstick, they were all in kind of strange colors like blue and yellow, and I thought that, gee, they're not really selling too many of those because, of course, they are losing money each lipstick that they are selling. But I was really happy to see that the lipsticks that they are offering this year in the Viva Glam line, that all of those look pretty wearable to me. And so this one is described as an intense brownish blue-red, but when I put it on, I think it was actually really, really pretty. Now, one company that does have a really, really bright red lipstick is Isamaya. And Isamaya's red lipstick, that is a slightly different formula than their lip glosses. And I think that the formula is really, really terrific. And so I did like that lipstick, and I wish that they had offered other kinds of real lipsticks in that formula, but that were not quite so red. And they haven't done that yet, but I am still hoping that maybe they will do that eventually. And so for this video, I wanted to demonstrate that lipstick, but I wanted to demonstrate it in a way that wouldn't carry me away. So when I used it in my previous video and I put it on the thumbnail, I thought that it was really, really bright red, way too bright. And so for this video, what I did is first I started out by using a kind of a brownish lip pencil. So for this, I am using the Makeup Forever lip liner in the color Anywhere Caffeine, which is described as a warm caramel nude. And then I put that on first, and then I put on the Isamaya Cardinal lipstick just with the lip brush. And so I think that that went on much more easily, and I put on just a really light layer. And then I put a little bit of that black lip balm from Isamaya on the top of it. So that is called Vanity. So I still think that that's a little bit bright for me, and I would really need to have sort of the right outfit or the right vibe in order to wear it even like that. But I do think that that made it a little bit more wearable for me anyway. And it is a really, really great formula. And so I think that if you do like bright red lipsticks, that would be a really good one to grab up, because the formula of that one I think is better than anything on the market, honestly. And so now let's move on to the second look. And what I did first in this look is to put a little bit of a lip gloss on my lips, just to give my lips some hydration while I was working on the rest of my face before I put on any lipstick. And so what I have here is a product from the Outset. So this is one of my favorite skincare brands, and this is from Scarlett Johansson. And so they came out with a lip gloss that is called Lip Oasis, and I think that really compared to any other glossy type of a lip gloss that I found, I really, really do like this one quite a lot. So it is quite glossy, so if you like a really glossy product, then this is for you. And it also does have a lot of moisturizing in it. So typically when I use something like, for instance, the original MAC lip gloss or the Glossier lip gloss, they tend to have very little hydration in them at all, and so I don't feel like they're very good for my lips. But in the case of this lip gloss, I think that it is very nice, and that it does provide some really nice hydration and moisturizing elements for my lip. And I like the applicator for this one. I have found that this one is pretty easy to put on, and that when I do put it on, that it tends to stay on my lip line rather than going all over my mouth, and it doesn't put on too much of it. So in general, I am a really big fan of the Outset, and I think that this is a really terrific product, and so I'm hoping that it will be a big hit for them. And then I thought that what I would do in these other looks is to just demonstrate some of the other kinds of face pencils or cream concealers that I have used on my face on a spot basis, so you can compare how they are working to, for instance, the Lisa Eldridge Pinpoint Concealer. So for this look, I started out by using the Bobbi Brown Corrector Stick, and especially for the winter, I think that these Bobbi Brown products in the concealer and corrector versions, these are really nice. They are very creamy. They don't need to be sharpened. They twist up, and I think that they stay on my face pretty well, especially considering how creamy they are. And the corrector sticks comes in 13 shades, and it is $35, and the shade that I have is light bisque, and so it is just a little bit pinkish, but I do think it's about the right color for me in terms of my own under eye circles. And then there also is a concealer stick from Bobbi Brown that I have in the shade Warm Ivory, and they have 18 different shades total, and I think you can get most of those shades or maybe all of them at Sephora. And then for this eyebrow look, I decided to use both the Jones Road pencil as well as the Jones Road brow gel. And so both of these products are in the shade Ash for me, but both of those are available in that gray shade and in several other shades as well. And so next we're at the Jones Road Gel Eyeliners, and this is a brand new product from Jones Road, and it is available in 4 different shades. So there are black, brown, navy blue, and also purple. And so the shades that I got are the ones that I typically would wear, which are the brown version and then the navy blue version. And these were $32, and they were just released last week, and so I just got them. And they did release a new eyeliner brush to go with them, so this is called the Precision Eyeliner Brush. And so it has a little slanty tip to it, and I think that this has actually worked really, really well for me, both with this particular eyeliner and then with some other eyeliners that I've tried. And in general, I am very, very fond of Jones Road's brushes. They are made in Italy most of the time. This one does say that it is made in Italy. And I think that they are really, really well made, and probably that they are the best brushes on the market. And I also do like, for instance, the BK Beauty brushes, but I really think these are better. So I think that these are worth trying, and I think that especially this little brush is worth trying. Now, one thing to know about these gel eyeliners is that, to my understanding, Bobbi Brown, who is the founder and the owner of Jones Rhode, actually invented the whole concept of gel eyeliner. So what I heard from her is that she was on a trip somewhere and she didn't have any eyeliner with her, but she did have an eyeliner brush and she did have some mascara that was like a gel mascara. And so she gave that a try and it worked really well for her. And so then she worked with some product developers to come out with a gel eyeliner that came in a little pot like this. And this is still sold on the Bobbi Brown site, but it looks like the ingredients in that are problematic, and so I didn't actually use that. But I am really happy to see that she came out with these new gel eyeliners from Jones Rhode, and that the ingredient list does look pretty good to me, and this has not irritated my eyes at all. So in this look, I put the Jones Rhode gel eyeliner on one of my eyes, and I do think it worked really, really well. I think it goes on very smoothly. Now, you could do a wing with this, and I think that that would be really nice to be able to do a wing, but I think that the little wrinkles that I have on the sides of my eyes make it really difficult for me to do any kind of a wing, and so I have kind of given up on that whole concept. But I do think, in terms of lining the top and the bottom part of my eyes, that this did go on really smoothly, and I think it looks very nice. Now, on the other eye, I am putting a different brown eyeliner, and that is supposed to be a gel eyeliner. And this is actually something that I found when I was just walking around the store at Ulta. So my dog likes to go to Ulta because there's usually a lot of young girls in the store, and there's a lot of other people that will pay attention to him, and the employees seem to be fine having him there. And so we spend some time in Ulta, and I just spend a lot of time kind of perusing the store. And I saw when I was waiting for my Jones Rhode eyeliners to arrive, I saw this little kit, which is called the Ulta Beauty Collection Bold Strike Gel Eyeliner Kit. And so I thought it would be really interesting to compare this to the Jones Rhode version. This was $16 for this compared to the $32 that the Jones Rhode product is. And you also do get a brush with this one. Now, as it turns out, this is quite a large brush compared to the Jones Rhode brush. And so I will show you the comparison here. And I don't think that that would be a good brush to use on my eyes. And in fact, I haven't even used it for eyeliner because I think it is way too big. I think I'm going to use that as a lip brush and see how well it works as a lip brush. So I did try this Ulta version on my eyes, and one thing that I will note first off is that I don't think it's been irritating to my eyes, at least not so far, and I've used it just a couple of times, but I think it's been fine, and so that is sort of an accomplishment, and I think it's been usable. And so if I look at the particular material in here, I think it's a lot more like the Merit Solo Shadows than it is like the texture of the Jones Rhode gel eyeliner. I think that it's a lot harder, and so I'm kind of like digging my brush into this, and you can see the marks in here. And I think it was a little bit patchier when I put it on my eyes, and so I do feel like I needed to take out another eyeliner brush and to kind of smooth it so that it looked a little bit more smooth and natural. And so I wouldn't say that it was as pleasant to use as the Jones Rhode version, and I'm not sure that the final result was quite as good. So I think it was usable for me. I don't think that it looked bad on me. After I was done with the look, I did take a little bit of extra effort, but in general, I thought that it was better than I was anticipating. And this one is available in both brown and black. But I think that of the eyeliners that are on the market, and I've only used these Jones Rhode ones a couple of times, they are working really nicely for me. Now, whether or not I will use them, they're a little bit more trouble than just either not using eyeliner at all or then using an eyeliner pencil. But I do kind of like the look that I'm getting from them quite a bit. And so I'm kind of inclined to keep experimenting with those to see how well they hold up for me and how I do with them as time goes on. And then now we have a couple of new blush colors from Nars. And so I do like the Nars talc-free blushes, in the powder form. I do think that they have a lot of really, really nice colors, and they came out with 2 new shades. And so one of those is called Impassioned, and this is sort of like an orchid shade, and it is very light. So if you have skin that's any darker than mine, then I don't think you would be able to wear this one. And even on me, I think that it doesn't show up a lot, but I do kind of like muted blushes, so I think I'm going to get some use out of that one, even though it is so muted. And then there's one that's more of a corally type shade, but also very muted. And this one is called Cherish. And I think this Cherish one is only available in this special Valentine's Day packaging. And I think this Valentine's Day packaging is super cute. I think that this is kind of reminiscent of like maybe the 1970s. And I think that, you know, this red color is really easy to find. And so I am really happy that I picked this up. And this Impassioned version is also available in that Valentine's packaging. Now, why they only put 2 really, really light, not muted colors in the Valentine's packaging and nothing else, I'm not sure. But I do think these are 2 really, really nice blush shades if you do have light skin. And so now let's talk about the new collection of nudes from MAC. And I would say that of all of the products that MAC has released over the past several years, this is the first collection that I have really seen people get really excited about and to talk about very much. And so I am really happy to see that. And I do think that there are some good things that are going on with MAC right now. And so I am really happy to see that. And in terms of this nudes collection, there are a bunch of new lipsticks, and most of them are either in the satin formula or the matte formula, and I do like both of those formulas, especially that satin formula. And then there is one new lip liner. And so the lip liner is in a color that is called Cool Spice. So as I have said before on this channel, the original spice that was really popular during the 1990s, that one has changed. And so the lip liner that MAC has been selling as spice is much more on the orange side. And so last year, Mob Beauty came out with a product that was called 1990, and that is a lip liner that is supposed to be the exact same color as the original MAC Spice. And Mob Beauty is owned and run by Vic Casale, who was the formulator who was at MAC when they created that original lip liner, and so everybody does seem to think that that is a pretty close replication of what the original liner was. And so this year, MAC did finally come out with a product that is called Cool Spice, and I do think that this is pretty close to the Mob Beauty 1990 version. It's not too far actually from the lip liner from MAC that is called Whirl, so I don't know if you have Whirl if you need to go out and get this Cool Spice version. And so I created a little bit of a swatch on my arm of all of the colors that I thought were really close to the original spice. And so what we have here, starting at my wrist on the right hand side, we have MAC Whirl, and then we have MAC Spice, and that is really the one here that looks really different. It is much oranger than the others. Then we have the new MAC Cool Spice, and then we have the Mob 1990 version, which is supposed to be the same exact color as the original MAC Spice. And then we have one from Jane Iredale, which is called Spice. And then there is one from Skin by Kim that they have a bunch of different shades that are on the neutral side. And I do like the Skin by Kim Kardashian lip liners as well. And so in the video footage, first I put on a little bit of the MAC Prep Plus Prime lip product. And I have tried a lot of different lip primers, and I still am really liking that one the most in terms of providing a good base for any kind of lip products that I'm putting on, especially when I'm using more like matte lip products or lip pencils. And then I'm putting on the Cool Spice product, and I put this kind of all over my lips. And in terms of the lipsticks, I did go to my local Ulta, and they did have all of the new MACximal satin lipsticks and matte lipsticks in supposedly the nude shades. And so I did get a chance to try all of them. And I feel like almost all of them are quite cool. Some of them are really leaning quite gray, and some of them are very pale. And I feel like if I go into those kinds of shades, my whole look tends to look kind of washed out. And the only lipstick that I thought really looked good was this Cool Teddy shade. And this one I think is not too far, actually, from the new MAC Cool Spice. And so I am putting that on over the Cool Spice shade. And then recently Merit came out with a line extension for their line of Flush Balm, so there are several new shades, and the one that I have is called Bespoke, and I do think that this is almost exactly the same shade as the Mob M1990 lip liner or this new Cool Spice lip liner, so I put that on my cheeks just to see how that would look in coordination with this more of a Cool Spice lip look. And then another thing that I have that I don't think I've ever really demonstrated on this channel are the other two colors of lip liners that were introduced by Mob Beauty. So the M1991, that one is kind of on the lighter side, and then there are two that are deeper. And so the first one that I am putting on is the M147, which is a chocolate brown color. And so I put that on sort of all and smudged it on all over my lips, and then I put that Cool Teddy shade over it, and so you can see how the Cool Teddy shade changes when you have a different color of lip liner on. And then they also have one that is called M159, and that is a taupe brown that almost looks gray to my eyes. And so when I put this on its own, I don't really like the way that it looks. But I do think that if I put this on and then I put a lipstick that is maybe too light for me or a little bit on the light side over it, I do think that that gives a kind of a nice look as well. And so I did do some comparison shades to those particular lip liners from Mob Beauty. And so what I have starting at my wrist on the right-hand side and then going in is the Mob 1990 version. And then I have the Mob M159 version, which is that taupe shade that looks a little bit gray. And then I have the Mob M147, which is the chocolate brown. And then a couple of other liners that I have in my collection that I thought were worth comparing. First of all, the one from Thrive, which is called Khaki. And then there's one from Tower 28, which is called Draw Me, and that one is quite brown. And then there's a couple from Makeup Forever. So there's one that's called Anywhere Caffeine, and there's one that's called Wherever Walnut. And those are really popular shades from Makeup Forever. And although I kind of like just the way that that Merit blush looks in combination with this look, I do have a lot of blush that has been released, so I have another blush to try on. And this one is from Natasha Denona, and it is called the High Blush Cheek Duo, and I have this in the shade Simply Shy. And this is $42, which I think was kind of on the expensive side for a blush. And it came in, I think, 6 different shades. And so I picked the one that looked like it was one of the lighter shades, and it was kind of on the coral side. And so I thought that that would be the most likely to work for me. It does look like an awfully lot of the rest of these are quite pigmented, or the one that's the pink color that is on the light side. That one looked a little bit on the too pink for me as well. So this one seemed like it would be really the only one that I really liked. And I think the formula is fine. And I think that even in this particular shade, I think it has a tendency to go on pretty strong. And I also kind of feel like these two shades that are in this, the highlighter and the blush, I'm not sure that they exactly go together. And I feel like when I wear them together, that the blush look tends to be a little bit more on the aggressive side than if I'm just wearing one or the other. So what we have here is a light dusty coral in the blush version, and we have an icy light pink in the highlighter version. And both of these are creamy. And I feel like if I wear one or the other, I think that I can kind of get away with it. When I put on both of them at once, I think it's a little much. But on the other hand, I think that maybe this would be a nice blush for the summertime months. I think that in the summertime months, I do kind of like the way that coral blushes look on me. And I think that this highlighter, when I put it on by itself, it just gives a little bit of an icy look, but it's not too overdone. And so I've been really experimenting with that, using it just as a blush on its own, because it's a kind of a mellow pink when I do that, or using it in combination with some other blush that I have. And so all in all, I was a little bit surprised at the colors that Natasha Denona chose to release with this particular blush. I think that the colors that I would be most interested in are really not included in this. It doesn't have very many neutrals in it. In the wintertime, I tend to lean more towards like berry shades that are not too aggressive, and they don't really have any of those in this particular blush. So I'm not really excited about this, but I think that it might be when it gets to be summer, as I say, that this might be a little bit better for me. And then another product that I've been playing with over the past month or two since it was released is the Patrick Ta Major Dimension Eye Duo, and I just have this in the shade that is called Still at the Club, which is two different brown shades, and this is a really sparkly product that is basically like an eyeshadow topper type of a product. And I am really, really liking this particular shade in this. And I think that especially since the brown colors are kind of in style this year, if we're thinking about the Mocha Mousse, which is supposed to be color of the year from Pantone, I think that this goes really nicely with that. And I think it also goes nicely with this brown eyeliner that I'm wearing. And so I put this on one of my eyes, and then I decided to compare it to another product that I have, which is called the Moondust eyeshadow from Urban Decay, and I have this in the shade Lithium, which is also a brown shade. And so I thought it would be interesting to put this on my eyes and also to do a hand swatch to see what the difference is. And when I look at these in comparison, I do think that I like the Patrick Ta version a lot better. I think that it's more sparkly, but that it also does not seem like it's overdone, and I think it kind of has an elegant look to it. And so I don't feel bad about buying this product. A lot of people did complain that the price was a little bit on the high side, but I didn't think that it was totally outrageous for the quality of this product. And Urban Decay does have another brown shade that they just re-released, which is called Diamond Dog. And I think that the Lithium has more like just silver pearls in it, and the Diamond Dog has more like silver and gold pearls in it. So I would be interested in going to swatch that. But in general, I do think that even though people were skeptical about the price of this Patrick Ta product, I do think that I really, really do like that formula. On the other hand, by now I have tried almost all of the other shades of the Patrick Ta product, and I haven't been all that impressed with any of the other shades, and I definitely don't feel like actually picking those up. So I think it's really just this particular shade that I actually like. And then I'm putting on a little bit of this Sarah Creel Back of the Cab mascara, and that is $40, but it is a tubing mascara. And I think it's been performing fine. I am really happy to see that there's a lot more mascaras that are out there that are performing fine. I think that this is a little bit expensive and that it's probably not necessary to spend $40 in order to get a good mascara these days. I would be much more likely to pay that if it were a brown mascara. But in any case, I think that this mascara is fine. And so now let's move on to the look that I've been wearing as I've been talking in this video. And so I started out with the Bobbi Brown Skin Corrector Stick in the shade Light Bisque, and I think that that goes on really, really easily. And then I used two different products to do spot concealing on my face. So one of the ones that I used is the Tom Ford Traceless Concealer Stick, and I think that this is a really, really good product. It is kind of expensive, so this is $60. It comes in 20 shades. I have the shade Cream or Creme, and I think this is a really, really terrific product. And it is a little bit expensive on a cost per gram basis. It's a little bit expensive. It's not anywhere near as expensive as that Lisa Eldridge product. And I think that when I just want to cover over things like redness and different kinds of discoloration on my face, I think that this has done a really, really good job. I really like the texture of it, and I like the fact that I don't have to use any kind of powder over it usually. And then I also have one of the Merit sticks, and I think this is actually quite similar to the Tom Ford stick, and this is in the shade that is called Sandstone, which is a shade that they released fairly recently when they expanded their shade line. So I do feel like this has been pretty good in terms of being a match for my skin. And there are 30 shades total now, and it is $38, and you do get a lot of this product, so this little stick lasts for a very long time. And I think I like this almost as much as the Tom Ford stick, and I think, again, for just covering over little blemishes on my face and redness on a spot basis, I think that both of these products have been really terrific. And then I put on some of the Jones Road Brow Pencil because that's a really fast way to do my eyebrows, and it does look like there is some texture. And then I put on the other shade of the Jones Road Gel Eyeliner that I have, which is in the shade Navy Blue. And I think that this is technically a navy blue, but it also seems to have just a little bit of gray and maybe even just a little bit of violet in it. It's a color that I actually really, really like. And so here it is on my hand. And I have found that the more that I have been using these gel eyeliners, I'm being increasingly impressed by them. So I think that they are quite waterproof and that they stay in place really well. And they do come off if I use some oil cleansers, but in terms of using them with just water and soap, I really, really have to scrub if I'm going to get them off. And I have found that in terms of putting them on my eyes, that they do stay in place really, really well. And then I thought that I would finish off the eye look by using just a little tiny bit of kind of neutral eyeshadow. And so what I chose was this Natasha Denona I Need a Nude palette in the mini version. So this is 3 of the basic shades that are in their big palette. And so there are 2 different matte shades, and then there's 1 shimmer shade. And I think that this is a really easygoing little palette, and it is convenient, and it doesn't take up a lot of room, and I've gotten an awfully lot of use out of this, and I think it really does kind of distill the essence of that palette that is popular, but it certainly is very expensive, and it also is taking up a lot of room. And so this little 3-pan palette, this came actually in a kit, which is called the Baby I Need a Nude Kit from Natasha Denona, and it's $27. And in addition to this, I got a little eyeliner in the shade Taupe, and I think this is actually a really, really terrific shade. Now, unfortunately, this I've used it up, and now it needs to be sharpened, and I don't actually have a sharpener that is this small, so I think I'm going to have to go and find one. There's one sharpener that is sold by Ulta that has a bunch of different sizes, and so maybe I need to buy that sharpener. But this is such a good color, this taupe shade, and I have not been able to find that color in their regular line, so I do hope that they release it, because as eyeliner pencils go, I think that this is probably my favorite shade of all so far. And then in terms of blush, I have another product from Natasha Denona that is pretty new that I used for this particular look. And so this is called the Natasha Denona Rose Cheek Duo, and this was released over Christmas as like a little Christmas tree ornament. And so it was only $20, so that did encourage me to go pick it up. And there are 2 different shades. One of them is a blush shade that is described as a rosy coral blush. And then it has a light medium highlighter that is basically a powder highlighter, although it is one that's soft enough that I can put on with my fingers. And I think that this is really pretty, and I was really happy to be able to get this for a reasonable price. And considering that I thought that these new Natasha Denona palettes were so expensive, I thought that this was actually something that I wanted to compare to it, because it does seem to be fairly available. And what I will say is that here's a comparison between those 2 shades. So the new version of the blush is at the top, and then the one that is the Christmas tree one, that is the one I'm wearing today, that one is on the bottom here. I think that in terms of the formula, the one that is in this new version, this is goes on more like a powder. So it seems like it's a cream when it's in the pan and when I put it on my finger, but then when it goes onto my skin, it ends up looking a little bit more like a powder. And I think I will admit that this one probably lasts a little bit longer on my cheeks. And I would say that this one is definitely quite creamy, and when I put it on my cheeks, it does look really pretty, but I think it does fade pretty quickly. So I think that that is definitely a disadvantage. And this highlighter that is in here, it's kind of a champagne type of a highlighter color, and I think it's actually a pretty color. And so then I thought that my skin could use a little bit of dewiness, and so I put on a little bit of the Westman Atelier Lit Up Highlighter. And there are two newer shades of this. One of those is called Biscuit, and this was released sometime last year, but I just picked it up over the holidays during the Christmas sales. And then I also have their brand new one, which is called Petal, and this is kind of a rosy shade. So maybe you can see on my hand here that the Biscuit one is up here and then the Petal one is down here. And I think that both of these are perfectly pretty colors on my skin, and I think that in general I do really like this product. And unfortunately this is a product that I think it shows up nicely in the real world, but I feel like on camera it kind of just disappears and that you really can't see the prettiness that this particular glassy type of a highlighter has on the skin usually. But I do think it's really a good thing for me, and especially during the winter months when my skin is looking a little bit dry. And then finally on my lips I just have Bricola, which is again the satin lipstick from MAC, and I think that this is a really pretty shade, and I really do like this particular formula. And then for the final look, I thought that I would start out by showing you another way that I go about spot concealing issues on my face. And so I have this little brush from Westman Atelier, and this is called the Spot Check brush, and it is designed to be used with a foundation stick and just use it on a very small little areas to cover up little blemishes. And so I am using this on one side with the Westman Atelier Vital Skin Foundation Stick, and I have this in the shade Atelier 3. And I think this has been a nice product. It's held up really well. I have been using it for more than 3 years, and it still seems to be in good shape and to be perfectly usable. The only issue I would say that is frustrating to me about this Westman Atelier stick is that I don't feel like there's a particularly good shade for me in their line, and it doesn't matter that much when I just blend it into my skin, but I still wish they had a few more shades. And then I also have this Bobbi Brown foundation stick, which is one of my favorite makeup products actually, and I have this in the shade Warm Ivory, and this I do think is a quite good match for my skin, and this I think has worked really well too. And I do think that this little spot check brush from Westman Atelier is a very nice little brush, and Westman Atelier brushes are really well made, and it's not terribly expensive. But I think that if you had like a little lip brush or certain eye brushes that have a fairly stiff bristles to them, that could work well too. But in any case, you just want a really small brush. And then I have continued to play with a palette that I purchased last month, and this is called the Chanel Jeu de Lumière, and that means play of lights. And so there are 4 different highlighter versions. There's one that is like a coral shade that's almost like a blush, and then there are 2 that are kind of gold shades, and then there is one that's kind of a little bit pink and a little bit gold and a little bit silver. And I think that these are kind of pretty shades. I especially do like that coral shade as kind of a muted blush. And I think that those gold shades are really a little bit too yellow for me to feel comfortable using them on my face as a highlighter, but usually I will use these as an eyeshadow. And that way I can get a sort of almost a full look out of just this palette without having to reach for anything else in terms of color products. Now I do think that the peach shade in that is very similar to this highlighter that was called the Les Symboles de Chanel, and so this is called Precious Coral, and so I think that that's a pretty close match, and so therefore I don't probably need to have both of these. And so all in all, I think that this new product from Chanel, it has been fun to play with, and I do kind of like the formulas in these Chanel products, but I wouldn't say that this was sort of a must-have for me. I think it was more like just a fun extra thing to be playing with over the winter. And then for this look on my eyes, I am using the YSL Blooming Lust palette. And this was a special edition palette. I think it was sort of for Valentine's Day. And so it is available just from Nordstrom, and you may still be able to get it on the YSL website. I'm not sure. So it comes with this pretty pastel packaging to it. And then there are as usual, 4 different shades, and these are kind of leaning towards pinks and a little bit on the raspberry type of shades. And oftentimes I don't really like pink shades, but I think that this is a really nice little palette and that it has worked well for me. And so I used 2 different looks, one on each of my eyes, just so you can get a sense of what the palette is looking like. This one might also be called Endless Love, and so otherwise it's called Blooming Lust. And it is $68, but I think that these YSL eyeshadow formulas are so nice in terms of how easily they go on and how well they blend, that this has been really my favorite eyeshadow palettes of all, and I actually have almost all of them. And this one is fairly close to being like the shade that is called Babylon Roses, and I think that although this one might be slightly better, I think that the Babylon Roses is actually really, really nice too. And so one thing that I do think about eyeshadow palettes that go pink like this is that it does help a lot if I use a brown eyeliner pencil in terms of it not making it look like my eyes are too sick, for instance. And so what I pulled out to use with this is the Bobbi Brown Perfectly Defined Gel Eyeliner, and I have this in the shade Scotch, which is kind of a bronze shade, and I think that this is actually a really, really nice eyeliner. And so I haven't actually ever used the Bobbi Brown gel eyeliner that is in the little pot because I wasn't comfortable with the ingredients, but this is actually one of my favorite eyeliners, and I'm not sure that that color Scotch is currently available, but I do still see the chocolate and the black shades that are still available on the Bobbi Brown website. And then in terms of lipsticks, I have continued to really, 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 really like the new explicit lipsticks from Nars, and these are satin lipsticks, and I am especially liking these compared to the MAC ones, primarily because they don't have a vanilla flavor to them, but otherwise I think that they are just really, really very nice lipsticks. And so I have several different colors of these as well, and the one that I am wearing in this particular look is called Decadence, and this is described as a tea rose, and I think that of the lipsticks that are in this Nars line, this is one that I think is a really good sort of everyday shade for me. And then when I picked up the new Rhode lip liner, I also picked up one more shade of their blushes, which I do really, really like in terms of the formula. I think the formula is probably closer to the Westman Atelier Baby Cheeks Blush Stick formula than anything else that I've tried, and I have really enjoyed using that. And so the new shade that I picked up is called Toasted Teddy, and so this is kind of like a terracotta type shade, and it looked a little bit dark when I first put it on my hand. I'll put that on now. And so it looks a little bit sort of a reddish brown on my hand, but when I put it on my face, I think it blends in so nicely that it is really easy to use. And so I thought with the gold shades from the Chanel palette that this blended in with those really nicely. And then for this look, I am using the Westman Atelier Lit Up Stick, and that is in the shade Petal. And then finally, the RMS lip oils were released in the late fall, and I really, really do like those an awfully lot. And I picked up a couple of new shades, and so I put one of these on over the top of the Nars lipstick just so that you could take a look at it. And this is in the shade Carolina, which is kind of a peach type of a shade. Now these do have a little bit of a flavor in them, so they have some real vanilla extract and then a few other types of herbal type of ingredients, but it is all natural, and I really like the way that they taste, and I really like the way that they feel. And they have cherry oil in them, which is supposed to be a really, really high-end oil, and I do think that this is a really, really good product that I have been really happy to be using this winter. So thank you very much for watching all the way to the end of the video. And if there are any of these products that you are finding to be interesting, then please let me know which ones those are in the comments section. And in addition, if there are any products that you have already tried out that are new to the market, then I would be interested in hearing what your experiences with those have been. And also, if you haven't subscribed yet to the channel, then I hope you will go ahead and do that. And also, if you liked this video, then please do hit like, because that helps the algorithm. And Coco and I do love you very much. So thank you very much for watching. Goodbye.